Season 3, Episode 11. Damn, that was hard. EUphoria, this is the playoff special part 2. We're going to have 3 teams today. You guys might know the familiar. Joining us first up is Vitality, Jiizuke, and Cabochard. Welcome, gentlemen.
Hello.
Before we get into you guys, housekeeping, start of the day stuff, timestamps in the description if you are on YouTube. You can also find us on SoundCloud, iTunes, or Spotify. This is how we're sitting. Very stern pose. If there is a podcast app you would like us to be on that we are not on, let us know. Since we've gotten on Spotify, I've gotten less of those messages, but let us know. We can always try to get somewhere else too. Bet updates. Frost Quick Shot Tattoo Challenge is alive and well. The spicy Best of 5 breakdown challenge, Caterl 1. It does need to be recorded, and the playoff bracket bet is continuing today as we will get more of our 6 playoff teams playoff bracket. Now, you already know Cabo and Jiizuke from Vitality are here, Bwipo from Fnatic. It was originally slated to be promisq and Caps from G2, but due to some illness from promisq, we are just going to have Caps today. But that's enough of that. That got us started, Frostgren. So now we get to talk to our boys
I just have to say, Cabo, you are a very hard man to get a hold of.
Yeah, it's true.
What can I say? Like before, I really couldn't give interviews. Actually, I was like, I need some time off for myself. But no, I'm back to doing everything. I guess no problem.
When I saw that we had finally got you locked down for EUphoria, I was like, yes, MVP frontrunner. Here we go, Cabochard.
Thanks. My boy Jiizuke said I can't come if you don't go. So I was like,
Actually, I said that. Yeah. If you don't go, I'm not going either. That's what I said.
Oh, no. Well, I'm glad you guys both decided. This would have been really awkward. We could have done
Yamato cannon.
Yamato cannon every episode.
3 times.
We never speak to anyone else on Vitality ever. It'll just be Yamato till the end of time. Playoffs, though, are upon us. We got the week break. Did you guys take any downtime at all, or did you just go straight into practice?
Well, we were forced to take a break because every team took a break, so we couldn't really
When you
stream anyone.
say forced, what does that mean? Was
we,
Yamato unplugging all of your
you just said that it's because no other teams were scrimming.
No, we wanted to practice. we wanted to practice, but just the teams were not screaming, so we took a break as well.
there was just the day off where we did some gym with Dracos. And
Oh yeah, that's coming out tomorrow. We gotta keep it hush hush. But
No, this episode will release after it.
No, it won't, because I think that one comes out. Okay, anyway, at this point, if you're watching this episode, you may have already seen 2 sweet playoff ads. There's a third one featuring all of Vitality. It was difficult to film. I wish it was already out so we could talk about it, because it was definitely a struggle.
Did you guys have any idea what you were getting into?
no, actually, when we were doing makeup, then we were like seeing videos of them doing whatever, and they're like, okay, that's exotic, but I guess we just go along and.
Yeah, this is just a little spoiler. We're talking Vitality jazzercise. I'm gonna let you get your own mental images. The video will be out there eventually after this podcast release. You can find it on LOL Esports Twitter. Thank you guys again though for doing that. By the way, it's hard to talk about it too much without giving it away from the people, but you guys had no idea what we were getting into, but you did it anyway, and I really appreciate that. And I hope
you almost killed Mowgli, but besides that,
I thought Mowgli would be fine.
Almost died.
Mowgli almost died. 100% true. He's still alive. He'll still play in playoffs. But there was a question there for a little bit. We definitely took some breaks.
It was like, tomorrow I can't scream. Ear pain.
Delayed onset muscle soreness, just taking out Vitality.
Done. Slowly sabotaging you guys. Now, the ads were fun, and I hope you guys are back on a practice schedule, but towards the end of the split, it was kind of tough, because for a long time, it looked like you guys were going to lock second place, and there was, no one going to contest you. It was Schalke, and then they dropped off the face of the earth, and you guys were, home free, is what it felt like. But then there was this huge rise from both Origen and Fnatic as well, and you guys ended up in 5th place. How does that feel at the end of the season to be in that 5th place position?
At this point, we are used to it. Last year, it was like this as well. We were 7-1 in Spring Split, I think. And then we did a downfall from there. And we were supposed to finish rank 1 or rank 2. And then we finished rank 4, rank 5, even there. And summer was reverse instead. It was first only losers.
And Mikyx joined and he shot up again.
So yeah, we are kind of used to our inconsistencies by now. And it sucks, but yeah.
I think one of the difference as well was that up until week 7, I think it was really easy for us to point our mistakes. It was one big mistake per game. And for example, the last week it was way more messy, where it was going in every direction. Like it was really hard to actually go into something when we came home. So after like for these 2 weeks, we had to really pretty much start from scratch and be like, okay, so these are the bases we want to like be our foundations going into playoff against Fnatic, and just start from there.
After being picked by Fnatic, like what was the initial reaction? Did you guys know that Fnatic were going to pick you guys?
I think eventually, seeing our ambitions, we wanted to face them. Like we would have to face them anyway. So if we were to take them in quarter or not, it's whatever. I guess we obviously saw the kind of disrespect that they don't even wait for Schalke SK to finish to pick us. But I think we would play them. So
Dang. Yeah, because once again, we said this in the other episode, and I was still just surprised. Like that feels like mental warfare at its finest. I think we had mentions from Duke talking about Yamato, or not Yamato, but Youngbuck talking about like it's all about the mental. You know, got to have that mental edge. Has this given them the mental edge? Do you feel like the confidence just like bam, vitality, like not any other information?
not from my perspective, at least.
There you go.
I mean, they didn't stop there. They said if we could pick splice, we would.
Yeah, that was great. We talked to Spice about that too.
We can't pick the rank 4, so we're going to pick the rank 5.
I don't know. I said this to you guys walking up. I was like, some people can try to make the argument, well, SK beat Fnatic in the best of 3 already, so they probably don't want to face SK. Maybe there's like some sort of mental boom. But I'm like, you have the choice of picking, a very inexperienced roster with a lot of inconsistent members, with a very clear game plan. They like to play through their jungler. Pyrian has been stepping up, but it's just like, or you could pick Vitality and you could just play that Russian roulette of which Vitality is going to perform on the day. Are you going to get the world's performance Vitality? Or are you going to get 5th place performance Vitality? And Fnatic like, let's take it. I like to gamble.
So, yeah, it just didn't make.
It actually boggles my mind.
It really does. But let's get some confidence built in Vitality. You guys talked about like restarting from basics, like building up in the scrims. What level do you think you guys are at like right now? Are you back into like full shape already, or is it just like, hey, by the time we play on stage, we're going to be there? Are you feeling good? Are you feeling confident about everything heading into your first match?
I think we always feel confident, even like let's say at Worlds when we had to face very tough opponent, we're not backing down. I don't think we're at our full level yet, but on stage we'll have a show, I think, as per usual.
Yeah, I agree. Like not even at Worlds we were like scrims were not going that good, but on the day we knew that like when we started playing the first game against Genji, like first 10 minutes was rough, but then like we just took good fights and tried to not make some mistakes of scrims.
And Jiizuke go pop off, and
Yeah.
game was really smooth at that point.
They're like, don't catch us, go ult top. And I'm like, okay, let him come. I don't mind. Yeah, it was. But yeah, I think we just scrims were never went that good for us. But we learn from all those mistakes that we make, and we just put the practice on stage, and it shows off.
How much? I think that there is a conversation to be had about best of 5 with Vitality. I think you guys have only had a single split where you don't have that many splits to begin with in the LEC or EULCS as this whole squad. But you guys have only had one really good split where you made a run through best of performances. And then even going to Worlds, you never got to the best of 5 section like the knockout stages. You guys have only really ever performed in best of 1. Do you think that there's some sort of blocker there, or how do you guys go about preparing for an actual best of 5? Because people can be like, oh, Vitality, they can be super exciting. They can be that world's performing team, but that's only been in best of 1s.
Yeah, but I don't think it's like we choked in best of 5 either. I think the 2 major best of 5 we actually played was against in summer, against Misfit, where we actually figured them pretty good, and against Schalke, where they figured us pretty good. And then I think they came out well prepared, Schalke. They had a way to make amazing, actually pretty useful on scanner. He was doing good, and we didn't think it would work because we had the style that Kikus would just go invade and get ahead and everything, and that was our main style going into this series. So yeah, for this series we're not so prepared, but I think we usually have a lot of strategies, even though it's centered toward the early game, like towards this split even more. I don't think we're that much of a best of 1 split, and we'll have to show off.
Predator Galio roaming with Kiki going in enemy jungle. It was pretty fun.
Predator Galio was hard. Predator Galio was interesting.
Yeah, it was I don't know, like Legend that series. It was all about peeking mid prior, and Kikis should counter jungle and get advantage, and we roam to sides and just dive everyone.
So exactly the same thing that's still happening.
Well, just without Predator and
So we don't speak about those strategies.
Oh yeah.
without mobility and boost of Predator, I guess.
I don't know. Maybe Predator Galio makes a comeback. That was a little bit of a rough start for you guys. The Skarner definitely made things more difficult. But I mean, speaking about mid lane briefly, obviously, once again, for everyone watching, we're trying our best not to get teams to give away any strategies. And as always, you guys can refuse to answer a question. But I'm curious, Jiizuke, specifically, how you feel about your matchup versus Nemesis. Now, probably like 3 weeks ago, I would not have given this guy anything, but Fnatic has been getting better and better, and he's been looking better as well. Is this a matchup where you feel like you just have the edge 100%? Do you think it's going to be close? How do you feel about it?
I'm not I don't really mind playing any mid, I'd say. Just the hardest ones to play against, I think it's Caps and Nukdak, but others is actually not so hard to play against. I think they do predictable things. If I go against Nemesis, I know what he's gonna bring, and I know what he wants to do. While let's say you go against Caps, he has multiple styles, and Nukdak same. So I'm pretty confident. Yeah.
Do you think that's true for like a lot of the newer mid laners in the sense that they play mid one way? Like they pick Lissandra, they play Lissandra like Lissandra's meant to be played. They don't really do anything like interesting or unique.
Like, well, there are many rookie mid laners right now, but I think he's not. Well, Nemesis has one style because I think Fnatic decides to play that style now. Like they just never tried so far to play like hard or mid or anything. So Nemesis just play this way, and he has to play safe and accordingly to Broxa because it's this way that has to happen. And well, last split Fnatic pulled out they were actually same in Spring Split. And they were never playing Q2. Caps was 1v1 or 1v2 all the time. And then they pulled out the thing in playoffs. They were like playing EV2v1 matchups and just camping. Actually, they were against us in semifinals, the first best of 5. And actually, it was the first time I ever got camped like so hard. It was first Broxa and then Xerx in third place match. But yeah, that's where I learned what to answer against getting camped. Because before that I was like, okay, I'm winning my lane, they're giving me free mid prio, and I'm 30 CS ahead, I'm roaming and blah blah. But after Fnatic and Splice I had to learn what to do, because at the time I was really clueless. I didn't know what... after that, what should we do? Because in scrims it was only one way, and we didn't experience the other side.
Yeah.
Because we were always in an advantage position in mid, and when that didn't happen in scrims, like last year, it was like just how do we play?
Like, wait a second, what do I do when I'm behind?
Yeah.
I can still go in, right?
But yeah, I evolved for summer split, so it's got all fixed.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see what the evolution is both for you and Fnatic heading into the best of 5. I always think it's curious, especially on a new patch too. And I know it's not the biggest patch, but like from what we've experienced so far, I feel like there's going to be enough interesting changes that will force some differences.
Is it 9.5 or 9.6?
It's 9.6.
Ooh, Kale. Just wiggle some eyebrows, Cabo. Kale? Kale.
Ooh, he's got the wiggle. That's all I needed. It's confirmed. Kale, getting played. Everyone's playing it. It's broken. They play it in the greatest league in the world, LCS.
You mean LPL?
LPL. Sorry.
They played it 3 times on 9.5.
All right, well, there you go. That's hype. Now, the other matchup, I mean, I'm interested in both solo lanes, and not just because you guys are here, but in general, I think these are some pretty important matchups. Cabo, Bwipo. Now, he is right there, so I'm like, it's going to be hard. So if you want to throw some flame, you can look him in the eyes while you do it. He's off screen.
Dude. Hey, you want to come here?
Make direct eye contact.
How do you feel about the top lane matchup? Because, I mean, for a while, like, Bwipo was living on an island, ignored by all of Fnatic, and now it feels like some games he's just getting all of the attention, some games he's left alone. Do you feel comfortable in like whatever situation you get put in the top lane?
Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting the way it has changed. Bwipo has changed like during this split. Like there was the downfall at the start when like they are like ganking him. And it was working really well. He was just dying, and then it was like the Bwipo that is gonna give up and just fall behind, and they're gonna either carry from mid or bot. And now it's sort of in the middle where it's like I feel he's gonna try to get advantage, and if it doesn't go well, then he's gonna give up later on. But he's gonna have this period like where he's gonna still try, and they're gonna back him up a bit more than they would, let's say, against our match, for example.
Yeah.
Well, like even though Elise was really behind, we were able to pressure off of top lane a lot, and then he was just fully giving up, even when he didn't need to. So yeah, we'll see how they transform into right now, like how much they're gonna play around top lane actually, because they were like doing more. I don't know if he came home and he was like, guys, this is not happening again. This is not possible.
You will gank my lane.
Either you're coming or either I'm going 0-5 or something. But yeah, I guess we'll have to figure that out. And then there is the usual crit buff for Reckless before the finals. So I don't know what's up with Riot.
We're not supposed to reveal the script to you, but it will get nerfed as we go into Worlds because EU did too well last year, and then it'll get buffed again.
You mean MSI, right?
No, Worlds. No. We got to keep them on top until Worlds.
All right.
Nerf it, and then yeah. So that's the pattern. You can don't quote me on that.
But-
Actually,
but-
I'm gonna get so many angry. Someone from the bounce team is like, "We actually do have crit nerfs coming in." I'll be like, "Oh no!" Now people are gonna think I'm just leaking. No.
But this is actually good because talking about Reckless, because I don't think anyone is looking at this matchup when you look at it through an analytical lens and saying like, Jiizuke and Cabochard are going to struggle here, or that's where Vitality will falter. I think everyone, I'm not saying like Flame, Attila, and Jack Troll, because obviously they've been starting to perform better, especially that Schalke game in particular where Attila just popped off. But Fnatic feels like they do have 3 consistent, viable threats that they can carry through. They can go to Bwipo, put him on something like a Jarvan. They can go to Nemesis and his Zoe or his Kassadin. They can go to Reckless and play all through bot lane, 20 TPs down there in 3 minutes. Whereas Vitality don't seem to have that flexibility right now because Jack Troll and Attila have been underperforming, or I'll say struggling in lane phase.
People laughed at 20 TPs bot.
I mean, it's true.
Teleported there in like 3 minutes. I was like, oh, there goes Bwipo.
If that was a stat we tracked, like TPs to what lane, you'd have like every other team's like a balance.
There's just like a heat map.
for Fnatic. We're just like, all right, guys. Can the jungler take TP2? TP smite. Let's send him bot lane. Like, commit everything we've got.
Well, there is this meme, right? That's like if you flame Attila, he's just gonna come like twice stronger.
So I'm just trying to do you guys a
Yeah,
favor.
This is the playoff, but we're giving him the playoff buff right now.
Yeah, so just Yamato, I think, is gonna go to him before the match and be like, you know what he said about whatever, and then we're gonna pump him, and I think we'll be ready to carry from every angle as well. We realized that was one of our problem in this split as well, and we're trying to fix that. So.
Here's my thing though. Like everything for teams who are just like, we'll be ready by playoffs. It's fine. We're working really hard. I totally love that. But if I just may offer some advice, there's this team called RNG. They don't give a fiddlesticks where they're carrying
She
from.
has to say that instead of the F word.
I can't say the F word. I got in trouble
Fiddlesticks
last
got
time.
replaced.
Yeah.
The Fiddlesticks.
The fiddlesticks. They don't give a fiddlesticks. They're like, we've got Uzi. We just have to play through this one lane. And it did them very well for a very long time. I just think Vitality should lean into that. You don't have to be the best team. You can actually just be one of the best teams doing your thing in the best way possible. You don't have to be like SKT from, 2015. We just win everything. Oh, we can play through here. Just play through Cabochard and Jiizuke.
I think just every team has their own style, and I think it's you don't
Wasn't there a guy that said something about play your style?
play your game. Cut
Yeah.
down flowers.
Maybe that's our style, but there is Bwipo in front of us, so we
Yeah, don't leak anything. They're definitely playing through bot.
Like I think the
Burn
dream.
some throw some TPs down there for sure. I think that would be a good investment of resources.
Bring the smite.
Like I think the dream will be like IG, like they
Yeah.
actually play aggro on every lane. The shy will get no attention, and he gets either 5-0 or 3-3. But he will do either 1-for-1 or he will take a double kill whenever they gank him or whatever. And then there is a bot lane that is playing aggressive as well and taking advantage, or vice versa. Like one lane gets like the attention from the jungler, but the other lane is not gonna go 0-5 or anything. It's just gonna be even or really good anyway.
So Cabo is the European, the shy. That's the goal.
I mean, it actually enlightened us when we screamed IG. It was really.
Oh my god!
It was really good experience and like really pushing you, I think, to become much better because you feel like you're challenged on every single decision you make. Like this little creep that you're gonna go for, you know that you can die from it every time, you know. So you're living on the edge. And I really felt the difference actually because when we scrimmed them, we played both like Duke and then the Shy. And it was really visible, like in their gameplay, at least from laning phase on top lane, the top lane difference.
Yeah, I think Ning and Rookie were for sure the best mid jungle I played against. It's actually so hard to play against them. Like Rookie fake pressure so hard, and it's just and actually Ning is always mid. So I'm not sure if it's fake pressure or Ning is always mid. It's really hard to say. And that's his screams. I can't imagine on stage. I can ask Caps, I guess.
I love every team has different stories about scrimming IG, and they always make me happy. Because like no one walks away from it as a negative experience, but there are always those stories about either getting smashed by IG or like being really pushed to limits, and those always excite me.
RNG refused to scrim IG for the longest time because it was destroying Uzi's confidence.
Really?
That's a true story.
He's like, my top lane's down six kills and like 3K gold, and he just shows up and he kills me. It doesn't matter if I'm winning my lane.
Just winning. You talk about mental warfare.
Now we
are camping bot. Can you just don't go 0-5 against the Shy, please?
I still think he should change his name to Theshi. I think Theshi just makes me so happy.
Deshi.
Or capitalize the S, please. You guys, we asked, like everyone on the show, we asked you guys to fill out a playoff bracket. And for anyone watching, we didn't make the graphic for last week, but we will for this week. So you'll get to see before the games this weekend all 6 of our guests' playoff bracket, including ours. So all 7 playoff brackets. You can see which one you agree with.
Basically, it works like this. Whoever gets the lowest score, you get 2 points. You can either pick the correct team, get a point for that, or the correct score, and you get a point for that. Yeah. Every single team, save for Dracos and I, because we have no stake in this, picked themselves to win. So credit to everyone there. And every single team also said that G2 was going to beat Origen, and every single team is beating G2 3-2 in the finals.
So you guys are beating G2 3-2 in the finals. We don't necessarily have to touch that one, but I do want to touch on one thing that you mentioned, which is that everyone is convinced right now, except for Frostgren and myself, that G2 esports are just going to smash Origen. Explain that one a little bit to me, because I think a lot of people are pretty down on G2 right now after, I would say, the struggles in the last few weeks, the losses in the last few weeks.
I think their first losses were actually not meaningful to me, at least. And then when they locked in rank 1, I felt they didn't care about winning or losing. They were just playing. So I think they're still a strong team and better than OG.
Does that change if it's promisq playing or Mikyx, or are you pretty confident regardless?
Well, Mikyx will be better, I think. Actually, I did not see the game, the games they played with promisq, but with Mikyx, Perks and Mikyx are a good bot lane, so.
But there's just so many teams that, how to say, it's interesting because we only see about 5% of what teams actually put out because we see you guys 2 days a week and the rest of the 90% is in scrim. So there's like so much game footage because it's a best of one format that the audience don't get to witness to. And so G2 could be terrifying behind stage. But like so many teams are still scared to take swipes at G2 and they'll be like, with promisq and it's not Mikyx, so maybe they might fall down. I'm kind of waiting for someone to just have the confidence to be like, no, G2 have this flaw, and this flaw, whereas everyone is just very safe, like, oh, very good team. We have to respect them. You can't touch them, even though they've shown some clear weaknesses and some clear flaws, even in some of their victories in the early part of the split. But everyone's like, no, G2, pedestal.
So what she's trying to do, she's trying to bait you into claiming G2 right now. She wants to know.
Because Caps is right there.
Oh, Caps is hey.
Yeah.
Reunion with Bwipo.
I think even as much as you can notice G2 flows, they would still be, I think, better than Origen. As Jiizuke said, you see like 5%, and on those 5% there is this like 2 games where they were rank 1, I guess, and I agree, I guess they didn't care as much. And judging from scrims, they are the stronger team, yeah. But I suppose everything when they have Mickey.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see how promisq affects it, and I hope for their sake that Mikyx can play in full strength, or that if he can't, and promisq does have to step in. That promisq is at like a comparable level. That's a lot to ask, right? But I think for the sake of our playoffs, it'd be good to see like. If someone's going to lose because they're bad, that's fine with me. If someone's going to lose because someone on their team got like injured and can't play or is sick and can't play, that always sucks. Like that just doesn't feel great.
And no flame to promisq. I don't think anyone's going to debate that Mikyx is the stronger support. But I think the bigger issue is not the individual, because everyone's like the 1v1 versus promisq versus Mikyx. I think it's more detrimental of the fact that Perkz role swapped, learned the position with Mikyx, and now he's put with another guy. Like we don't know what that comms look like. Luca had his flash blown, as Mithy said, because promisq walked away and that wasn't like back up, and Hilly and Reckless just fiddlesticks them.
I mean, very early in the season, as soon as he roll swapped, they actually were playing duo for like I don't know how many games in a row just to get along so well together, and it really has shown. I think from early week streaming them, actually they were really really strong. So it's definitely a way better duo, I think.
So why does Vitality win 3-2? Tell me, if Vitality are going to MSI, what happens? Is it just like Jiizuke just goes God mode? Is Cabochard the true MVP? Is it Tilt and Jack like Draven every game?
You have to follow now.
It's through bot lane.
Yeah.
Perfect.
We're going to play through bot lane and we are 50 CS ahead.
That's what I like to hear. That's the confidence I want. Of course, we'll show you the full playoff bracket. You can check those out on
Actually, about Perkz and promisq, like for sure, it's if you see the Fnatic game, they actually lost because Cassio was on the wave and promisq was going to ward 3 bash.
Yep.
And
Hilly
they got
engaged.
double sum from there, and the lane was frozen and the jungle was stopped. So they lost from there with one synergy mistake. Like they just didn't say I'm gonna ward, or Perkz didn't just give up once. Yes.
And it gets even worse.
I'm not sure which one it is, but
because Aurelia then dives them, gets the first blood, and then Caps is looking at Aurelia like, oh well. My life. Fiddlesticks.
Can't do it, dude. You're so okay. Well, thanks guys for the insight in your playoff bracket. We are running a little low on time here, so I want to get a few Twitter questions in before we move forward. Thank you to everyone who submitted Twitter questions. The one that I want to start with from, I don't know if this is ABC Edo or
I grabbed the same one.
Abcedo GG. Cabochard specifically for you. One, this person's a big fan. They want to know how you got so strong. You were like top 5 last year, but since LEC started, you started on other top laners. You are now probably top 2, if not the best top laner in EU, which I agree. You're definitely, I think some people will make the argument for top 2. I think you're number 1 right now. I think it's up for debate depending on how Wonder's performing on the day. Bwipo will probably tell us that he's number 1 in a few minutes here. We'll see. Maybe playoffs Bwipo does have a good record so far, so we'll find out. But like, what was the catalyst for you to improve so much? Was it like because you weren't on the map for the longest time, and then last year you were really pretty good, and then this year you're really good. Like, what has that improvement process been like?
No thanks, Cabo. Best Cabo.
So I think it's a mix of some things. Like this is gonna sound actually pretty dumb, but I think I was playing with different DPI from home than stage for like a full year or something.
What?
You guys have a peripheral sponsor now.
I was feeling it was different, but then I would go home and it was like actually it's the same. And there was some some program that was changing it, I guess. And besides that, I think Mugli actually is enabling me more than I was able to play like last year. Last year I was like.
One of these is an acceptable answer. It wasn't the mouse DPI.
I mean, little things matter, Frosco. Little things matter.
Yeah,
a bit of DPI is a lot.
DPI issue.
So yes, Mugli.
I do feel like you should, if that was legitimately something that changed you, you should be the kind of guy that like has the measuring tape that puts his keyboard in exactly.
Yeah, I thought about
every game. Have your manager do it. Dennis can do it. It'll be good.
And yeah, actually, I think during last year there was the meta. We said like you were playing Sun against Ornn, or so against Shogat, and all you could do was like getting the advantage roaming to mid pretty much. So you were judged on being a good player. Like you should get advantage in losing matchup most of the time. And when we tried to play through top, like right before Worlds, like it was I think too late. Like we didn't manage to do it at all. Like it was when Urgot, Irelia, Kali came in. And yeah, it was not a thing. We were just so used to play through something else, then the system was not working at all with Kikis. And now with Mugli, I think he was way more used to play with Kin through topside. So it was a bit more natural, but we had to learn obviously from there. And like I was going back to my Gambit days, I guess.
I like that. That's a real throwback to Gambit Cabochard era, dude. That's, oh God. Sometimes the old League of Legends is so absolutely nostalgic. Frosco, did you have a next question that you wanted to ask?
Yeah, it's kind of along the same vein. It's from Sutwo by Sutwo_. Question for Bwipo and Cabochard. what is your opinion on the overall strength of top laners in the LEC in comparison to the last few years? So do you think that top lane just got better? Do you think it stayed pretty much the same and now top laners get to show off their skills?
Yeah, I think you can definitely show more than you would be able to last year. I think there was periods of time last year where you could play GP and Camille and something and you could do things, but right now it's actually really there are so many things to play. And I think we'll see even more new things coming into playoff. I think it's always hard to judge because you can only judge from the competition. Everyone's getting better, even though the competition may feel lower. Yeah, I think we have good top laners this year. We have seen even in lower leagues actually people rising up. So I'm looking forward if they're gonna have more time, let's say in summer.
I think it's just about the meta change. In the past years, probably there were a few champions, you mentioned Camille, GP, but mostly it was tanks. So now instead it's full bruisers and assassins like Akali and stuff. So
yeah, I mean the last time I can recall the top lane was so impactful. I think season 5 was the all-time the most because you were just playing this Fizz or Ikarim or whatever, and you were either getting home guard and ganking bot, or you're getting so fed top lane that you would just carry the whole map.
Shyvana's might.
Do you think that...
It's not the thing.
It's in the rook. It was a thing.
It was Freddy only. Yeah.
Freddy only? Okay.
Do you think that empowers just, let's say, Western teams, or specifically LEC teams going into international events? Because you have Bwipo, Wonder, Werlib.
I mean, Alphari is
and-
pretty good too.
Yeah, Alphari, Chachi. Yes?
Yeah, that's our. That's
Well,
our
you mentioned
playoffs.
the top 6.
Yeah, that's our playoffs.
All of our playoff. So theoretically, one of these top laners will go internationally and face someone like, let's say, the Shy. Is it better? Is it worse?
A good year for us? Is it still just the Shy as an untouchable god? Where does it rank?
Compared to the Shy, I think it doesn't matter as much. I guess you can snowball more. But let's say if we face NA, I think it matters more. I think in NA, I think Licorice is good, but besides that, they don't actually have so good talent in top lane. We've seen some dead this year actually playing not so good. And playing against China and Korea is the thing. And I'm really looking forward to play the Shy, if it's not for MSL or something, to scream them again and see on the meta like this. It's really entertaining just to, even from our point of view.
Yeah.
In LPL, they'll often send teams who aren't participating at MSI or Worlds to also scrim or get the scrim practice. I think Griffin also did something very similar. Would you guys, if you didn't make MSI, ever consider also going?
I don't know how much we are allowed to tell, but we have planned actually to...
Yeah, you can say you've got a plan.
You can cut it if we're not able to say it, or...
I mean, I don't know. If you're allowed to say it, say it. If you're not allowed to say it, just say, we'll think about it, and we'll just wink at the camera and we'll move on.
I'll tell the audience that the LPL has done this many times where they have even assembled all-star teams where they won't send a full roster. They'll send pieces of different rosters as scrim partners to get more experience scrimming at
even if we...
events.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Weird.
Even if we don't go to MSI, we'll have scrims against really good teams during this off-season from spring to summer. So I think we will get to play them. So
That's
regardless.
Hype. That's hype. Yeah. That's cool to hear. Jiizuke, I have questions for you, but we're out of time. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to wait till next time to ask them.
I'm joining Cabochard.
Cabo is the special boy today.
He's so famous. He's MVP.
Yeah, well, he's just been gone for so long.
Him.
He's been an enigma. He's been hiding behind the scenes. What's been going on in his head? We had to know. That's been it. Thank you guys again for coming on. Once again, you guys can find their bracket online probably Thursday or a little bit after this episode releases, depending on when we get we're getting a pretty graphic done, so you gotta wait for the pretty graphic to get made. But thanks for coming. Good luck on your 3-2 final versus G2.
3-2 into 3-2 into 3-2.
3-2 into 3-2 into 3-2. You're playing as many games.
3-1 into
3-2, 3-1, 3-2, 3-2. You're gonna 3-1 splice. That's you're 3-1ing splice. You're 3-2ing.
This is basically Fnatic's good, Origen's good.
As long as we're winning, it's fine.
There you go. All right. Well, I'm excited to see what's gonna happen. Of course, you guys play Vitality this week/weekend. I still need to figure out what day each match is on. I'll learn at some point, team. Prep is this week. We'll get there. Anyway, thank you guys.
Is it one match every day? Or
one match every day, yeah.
I don't think he actually knows the answer.
Wait, it's one best of 5 per day. Come
he
on,
just trust falled into that.
Do you know?
No.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Don't throw too much Anyway, thank you guys for coming, and we'll
Thank
see
you.
you next time. Next up is Fnatic. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We've decided to make a slight adjustment because we only have one guest from both G2 and Fnatic. We're going to do them at the same time. It'll be I don't know, it might be a mess. I'm going to be honest, but I think it's going to be fun. So we have, of course, Caps representing G2, Bwipo representing Fnatic. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you for coming out. How are you both doing today?
Well, I mean, it's pretty early, right? But I'm honored to be invited to EUphoria. So
There you go. I'm all happy to have you, man. It's been a long time coming. Bwipo, you're of course coming back. Number one comment on you being here alone was, of course, Bwipo's here alone because he talks so much.
Well, I guess I found my replacement.
I don't know why people complain about that. They're
I
like,
don't know. It's good.
We want information from EUphoria. We want interviews, and we put Bwipo, and they're like, "Oh, but this guy talks so much." I'm like, what the fuck? You can't have it both ways. Pick one.
Don't worry. We'll get guests that don't talk. It'll just be Frostgurn. If you just want Frostgurn to talk, we can do that. That's its own show.
Oh, please no. Yeah, drink that water.
Get out of this one. So, Bwipo, I want to ask you on your feelings on kind of the final weeks for Fnatic, and we'll ask the same to you, Caps, in a second. But you guys went from third place, obviously, like, huge turnaround in the split. Last time we talked to you, I'm going to be honest, we walked away from that episode being like, these guys are dead. Like, there's no way.
Dead?
You were both, like, you and Broxah were both
It was
very intense.
Very dire.
Yeah, like, Broxah was very
mean-
emotional. You were very focused, but, like, you both had very different reasons for why Fnatic was struggling. So from our perspective, we were like, I don't think they have enough time to get it together. Now, luckily for you, luckily for the Fnatic fans out there, we were wrong. You guys did pull it together. You rose up. I mean, you've been kicking ass. So what happened? Like, what changed? What turned this around for you guys?
Honestly, just I think trust was a really big deal. Like a really, really, really big deal. I think just half of the comms on stage, whenever someone got ahead, it was just, don't int. This guy has like this much of an advantage. Just try not to lose the game, and we're gonna win it real fast. So just this type of trust that you get from your teammates, it just helps, right? If someone says it to you, like when I was playing against Misfits, of course I remember that game. When I was playing Aatrox, it was like 5-0. You know, Reckless was specifically saying, just chill. There's no need to contest anything until he gets here. And with he meant that the shy cosplay, you know.
Yeah.
The guy that came around with like 3 items and which one hit anyone that walked up. So it just feels like you're empowered. It feels like you have even more reason to carry the game, and you feel like you can actually do it. Because this is something that teams with less experience don't have, is when someone gets really far ahead, even if the guy can carry alone, you'll still feel like you need to give him resources. And when you do that, you're making yourself weaker. So the rest of the map is getting weaker because, like, let's say, for example, Reckless is like 4-0 or like he's winning bot lane. He's got like 40 CS up. He's got 2 kills, 4 plates. At that point, I'm still going to be like entranced to TP down there. Whereas if I just let him build his advantage and make sure I don't fall behind, he's going to win the game for me eventually. But the thing about trust is I don't need to TP down there. I'll trust that he's going to do that on his own or with his jungler or with whoever wants to help him. And I'm going to make sure that the other side of the map doesn't break.
Okay. One, I'm going to get I want Caps' opinion on that specific statement, but at what point did you decide we didn't need to teleport bottom? Because I'll be honest, for a few weeks there, I really looked like the only thing you wanted to do was teleport bottom.
Honestly, it's just, it's a game-to-game thing, right? You're not actually going to...
There's a lot of games where that's
I
stacked
am
up.
pushing this wave and I'm going to look... Like, there's a difference between saying I'm going to take priority, I'm going to look to TP bot, and just being like, no matter what happens, I'm going down there. So... It just happened, and I thought it was funny because it just happened. Honestly, like most of them were actually quite successful. It wasn't like we TP'd bot for nothing, right? It was,
True.
There was usually something.
It was
one
close to
time
not
where it was
working.
like we both TP'd for 1 kill, and it was like, you know, like maybe it wasn't worth it. But at that point, maybe it became a little bit of a habit.
There you go. Caps, from your perspective, Fnatic obviously were definitely bombing the first half of the split. They came back around. They barely beat you. Game of inches. That was an insane game. How do you feel about their development? Like, because they went from no one cares to now I think a lot of people are nervous about playing this team in playoffs.
yeah, I mean, so it's like always hard to say from the outside probably. It's not like I like hard studied all their games, and sure I get some insight from Bwipo, but it's to really know what's going on is like harder from the outside. So I'm not completely sure if what exactly happened, but a trend I can see a lot of their games is that they level 1 invade and they do like early cheeses.
They do love those.
And stuff like this. We saw like with the TP bot as well, right? So it feels like they practice a lot of like set plays that they can just do every game basically, and they have basically been having a lot of success with that. The only worry I have is like going to playoffs is maybe going to be a bit harder to do the same. Is what I'm thinking. But I guess we'll see in a week.
Yeah, how many different level 1s can Fnatic come up with, or different level 2 gank paths for Broxa?
I think it's more so, and this is awkward saying this next to a Fnatic member, but just wiggle eyebrows if close. I feel like Fnatic are really good at establishing a strong side of the map and then playing around that or understanding exactly how to abuse it, especially in the context of this big trust conversation of if we can create one strong side of a map at least, then all you have to do is just absorb pressure on the other side and then wait for that guy to move around.
Definitely, but I also feel like it's because most teams aren't actually good at transferring their strong side of the map into an advantage.
I literally just like set that one up for him. I was like, how softly is he going to catch this? And he was just like, every other team is guarding.
No. I mean, it's just the way it is, right? Like, even in the game against G2, where I obviously fell really far behind, that was mostly 1 versus 1. When we were on the bottom side of the map and you had Jankos up in the top side sweeping my ward out and stuff like this, that's obviously establishing a strong side of the map. But the thing is that he never actually influenced the matchup. Whereas when we set up the strong side of the map, we were able to clearly influence that bot lane 2v2 and take some advantages there, if you will. So I feel like the same happens the other way around. When we're playing around the top side of the map, our bottom side of the map is generally speaking not taking nearly as much of a hit. And I think that's more on the other teams than on us. But I agree. When we're somewhere, it's usually with a purpose.
You know what's great about the whole fiddlesticks thing is that when you say flash fiddlestick someone to mean like yeah, it still works. Because that's what Reckless and Hilly did to Luca.
Oh,
I don't even know what flash.
she's not allowed to say the F word, so she has to say fiddlesticks.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know.
So as we were saying, when Perk stepped up to get the CS, and then Hilly reconned him, and then Aurelia got first blood, and then rocked into your lane, you're like, well, I guess 2 sides of the map now collapse. And G2 was like,
So from your perspective, Caps, talk to me about the past few weeks for G2, because you guys were like on top of the world. You locked first place in week 8, and then I mean, obviously this Fnatic game was tough. You guys did really well to survive as long as you did.
Was it tough or fun?
Well, I mean, it was not very fun, at least for me, like the early game. But then at some point, I guess it was kind of fun. Obviously, getting late game with Zed is always fun. But yeah, early game was like not that fun. Even, not sure.
I can relate. It never got fun for me, though.
Yeah. For a little gangplank. You hit a couple barrels in the end there. You got a good hole there.
They didn't really deal damage, though. Like I was struggling for my life. When I finished my Infinity at just 37 minutes, I was like, okay, do I go tanky and then like don't deal damage and then still get 1 hit? Or do I try to scrape together some components to maybe hit the lottery, And then when I hit the lottery, it wasn't really what I wanted.
Bwipo, aka the Tickler, did a little bit of damage there.
You got massive flame for that GP pick. Do you want to defend it?
Of course I do. All right, name me. I'm gonna play a minigame here. If Caps wants to help out, he can, but I don't think he will.
I was aboard the GP.
Minigame. Find me a champion I can pick top lane when you see Cassiopeia, Ryze, and Jarvan locked in, and they have the option to 5-pick top. Name me one champion with Aatrox and Renekton banned that I can blind pick in that situation.
Why wouldn't you go for something like a Poppy or a Scion versus a GP?
Well, versus GP?
Or
no, instead of GP.
Oh,
versus Ryze.
Blind pick? Well, first of all, I don't think Ryze into Poppy is that much more fun. He still has counterpick option, right? So he could even take the GP into any tank I take, and he's probably going to outvalue me there. I can probably name a few more Conqueror champions that will slaughter any tank I blind pick.
So do you think this was an issue that if you went for a tank matchup and then took like the soft loss and say like, oh, at least my champion will have utility later on, that they could then GP? So there was the fact that GP was on the board as a possible option and that you just didn't want to get outscaled that hard?
I mean, it was just... We had Karthus, right? So physical damage was nice. So bringing another physical damage pick into as the GP was not a bad idea, I think. That said, again, it's just I can either take a bad matchup that scales or I can take a bad matchup that scales and is not really useful. Like if I press my Gangplank ult on bot lane, I've pretty much done my job, haven't I? Like as a top laner, at that point, with the way the draft went, I've pretty much done my job. I just need to survive. And maybe it didn't look pretty, and everyone can be like, oh, he had 50 CS down, But at the end of the day, the only people that care about you having minus 50 CS is LoL ESPORTS because they can show the stats. This guy sucks at laning.
Side boop. Boop.
Yeah. So, but like at the end of the day, I don't feel like
first
me
thing we're
being
gonna show
that
in
like
the
me
best
being
of 5.
behind in the game was the reason why we couldn't close out. I think execution was more the issue.
Well, you know that when it comes to G2 versus Fnatic, if you guys get to that best of 5, first thing exactly, the Cyber's gonna come
The
out.
last time they played,
Down 50 CS, and Venice will be like,
a liability for this team. Really,
I mean, if Wunder doesn't hover GP at that point, I'm a bit disappointed.
yeah, but probably be a GP hover.
GP Rise sounds good.
Caps focusing in back in on the G2 side of this, not this G2 Fnatic game, although it is always going to be an interesting discussion because it was just an insane
was a
game.
fun game.
It was just an insane game, right? G2 overall, like you've had the struggles with Mikyx, promisq subbing in doing pretty well, but like obviously dropping a lot of games in these last few weeks. What's going on in the G2 camp? Is it Vitality were on here? They're like, yeah, I just think G2 were like unconcerned. I think they locked first. They were just playing around. Like, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously going into the split, we had like a really, really strong start, and it's not just like from stage, but also from scrims. Like we were barely losing any games. So I was like, obviously it's a new team, so I was like not gonna say I was confident, but I was like a bit worried honestly because we were winning so much, and I was like afraid how it would show on stage. But it actually showed up, and I was really happy with that. And then we obviously just had a really good first half of the split, and that's like the 10th game is when we actually dropped to OG. And I mean, we got set it. Like, well, what can I say? And at that time, it was not like we were worrying, right? And we have never really been worrying. I think we just realized that, sure, we were only locked last week. We were locked for first, but already the week before, we felt like we were locked for first because we were like I think 3 wins ahead or something like this. We had to win 1 game in our last 4 games, so we basically assumed that we were gonna at least I did, and I'm pretty sure everyone did, that we were gonna get first. And it's not really something I had tried before because every other time I've been either like fighting to get first, or the first split I was fighting to get players right. So it was a bit weird, and we were talking about like what we were actually gonna do because obviously we had Mikyx who didn't really shouldn't play as much as possible because of his wrist. So we were playing with promisq, and that also made it so we didn't really care that much about the games because we didn't really need to win. But at the same time, we didn't want to in promisq really hard, which I mean, I guess I failed a bit at that, but anyway, we wanted we wanted to win for promisq kinda, but we also didn't want to we just wanted to relax, so we were actually at our peak during playoffs, right? That's why I think, for example, Jiizuke and Cabochard were not that worried because. I mean, we were not worried, and we're pretty confident still going into playoffs. I think a lot of people are going to be very, a lot of people are think hyping, I don't know what it's called, disregarding us maybe because of our last weeks, because usually people judge most from last weeks. But at the same time, people also think that a lot of teams were fighting for their lives, and we were we were basically just chilling a bit.
Do you think we've seen the strongest? I mean, the easy answer is everyone will say no to this question because no, we're going to level up. We have a final form still to reach in best of 5. But in all honesty, if we're thinking about G2 over the course of the 9 weeks when we've seen you guys just absolutely maybe obliterate a certain team in, what was the time?
2035?
Is that
I remember.
Is that peak G2? Have we seen your guys' actual final form and now it's just about consistently hitting that each time?
I mean, I don't think so. I think, feel like, I don't know what I want to say honestly, but we saw NG win a 15-minute game last year in playoffs, and we're gonna look to do the same, I definitely don't think we have reached our peak. I don't even think we're close to it. I think what we showed was basically a new team going together, and we fit really well with each other. So we had a really strong early start, but that doesn't mean we're even close to our peak. I'm not saying necessarily that we will win even hopefully we'll win even harder than we did early in the split, but you also have to think other teams were not really that strong at the start of the split. They also improved, right? And obviously we improved with them. And I'm pretty confident saying that we were a better team than we were back then now, and we will be even stronger in the future.
Feels like there's kind of 2 different types of evolutions, and teams can go through both of them, so I'm not saying it's exclusive. But in my eyes, I see a team like G2 and Fnatic, and I'm you have such experience on both these rosters that the evolutions that you guys go through is now integrating the new pieces, making sure that all of the synergy, all of the teamwork is there, and you guys get better as a team, versus a team like Vitality, which feels that there's still a ceiling to be hit from the individual pieces. We saw how much better Cabochard got, and just the span of like the last 3 splits, how much better Jiizuke is getting, and that there still feels that there's improvement to be done on an individual basis. Do you guys think that you have that ceiling still individually? Like, does Caps get better as a player just by himself, or does G2 only get better through their synergy, how they work together, the strategy, their understanding of the game?
Yeah, I mean, I think I think you can always get better individually, even regardless of everything else, right? But usually it shows most when you actually improve as a team, and usually it's not necessarily like huge improvements. And as you can like see in Fnatic, and as I noted before, it can also just be stuff like them having an early game plan that like basically the first 3 minutes they get like a lead, and then they go from there, and then suddenly they look very different than when they didn't get this lead, you know. And so that's like the very obvious signs of like everyone's gonna say, oh, they improved a lot, or they look like a lot better. But on an individual level, you can definitely improve as well, and it's just like much harder to see that improvement, I think. And even if you say like Vitality might have improved a lot on the players, Cabochard also mentioned it was Mowgli suddenly showing up, or it was like his DPI, you know. So it's also like team things, you know. The things that you usually see are usually team things, and the things that are maybe a bit more hidden or things that won't show up that often is what you improve on yourself.
Of course, the hidden third type, which is your peripherals, can get better.
Yeah.
the Cabochard buff specifically. But I'm curious, the same question to you guys on Fnatic. Like Nemesis is obviously a very young player. Do you feel like you guys are improving mechanically, individually, in like regards to laning phase, or is most of your improvement right now as a team and just like playing better as a group of 5?
Honestly, I feel like once you hit a certain point of competition, I think Worlds is a good example. I feel like one-on-one, you shouldn't be getting any advantages. I feel like this is just, you're just playing the game, you're trying to do what you can to get an advantage, but good players won't give you any edge. I'm going to go to the group stage, Invictus Gaming versus Fnatic, and I feel like that's a good showing of that.
The good memories.
Yeah, of course. Funnily enough, that good memory could have turned into a really bad one, and I think about this, right, because they played Gragas Irelia in the tiebreaker game, and I realize is when they pick this duo, is when they mean business. Right, that's when they want to camp and kill top. But I think they made a little mistake because the Irelia had a different name tag. I think that's where things went wrong. Jokes aside.
Great job, Feshi. What?
Yeah. Ning also whiffed that Gragas ult, and I feel like if he didn't, we could have seen that go really south really fast too. He was quite drunk that day, I think. But
Real Greg.
He was.
Full commitment to the character, really.
That said, what I'm trying to point out is that at a certain point, individual skill is no longer relevant in the sense that you can't get advantages unless the matchup is really, really lopsided.
But I just feel like so many professional players have this mentality of, because I agree to you to an extent that it's like once everyone knows how the matchups work, like I'm supposed to lose this matchup. It's fine, I'll go down 15 CS, but then I'll be able to do this, like know where their win conditions are. But then so many professional players then will stop going for like the crazy outplays because they're like, I can't do that because that's not how this works. And the other dude's playing like an absolute banana on the other side.
Yeah, but I think that's like, even if you do that, like that's what I'm saying is like how the matchup plays. Like the Shy, for example, when I played against him for the first time, he's playing Fiora, I was playing the Orgod. I know my champion was not very balanced, but you know, he was trying to go ham, you know, he was trying to kill me. He went all in, he tried to like really kill me, and it got like to a game of inches at that point, right? Happened in the World Finals in the first game as well. Like it was basically like, does he parry the ulti? Does he dodge the ulti? Like, you know, at that point, if Fear Beyond Death connects, he's dead, right? But that's like the idea of the matchup, right? Like you can push it to that point. You can't push it to the point where you're gonna have to flash my ult or parry it or do whatever. And if you do that, you'll survive. But if you don't, it's not like you're gonna kill me. My champion is like too broken or whatever you want to call it. Like the champion is just the way it is. And what I want to get into is at that point it's the jungler, right? Because when you push it to that point, there's something happening. Either there's a flash gone, or you have a teleport advantage, or you have cooldown advantage on your ultimate, anything like that. And when your jungler is there to capitalize on that fact that you're pushing it that hard, is when you're actually going to win. That's when you're going to look real good.
In high-tier competitive League of Legends, do you think jungle is the most important role?
It's the most important role to make a player shine. I think Fnatic was a good example of this in the sense that we were all able to hold our lanes on our own. None of us would break down completely up until that fateful day. And I feel like that kind of described Fnatic in the sense that, you could leave Caps 1 versus 2 or me 1 versus 2 or our bot lane 2 versus 3 or whatever, and the other side of the map would be able to slowly gain advantages without completely breaking down on the other side. However, when the jungler comes in, we're getting big advantages. Every single place gains an advantage, and I feel like that's what defines a good team. This is why, for example, a team like RNG, which you love talking about, either lives or dies by this blade. When he goes bot, the advantages are big. When he goes anywhere else, at the end of the game, they're discussing why didn't we go bot.
Well, that really depends on which nameplate is going bot.
Oh yeah, obviously, but then you have games like when Uzi walks into the turret and dies. I don't know. Sorry, did you watch the game against the IG?
It tells me so much because
Was it game 3?
yes.
Yeah. Oh.
People see Uzi and like the Shy and Rookie, and don't get me wrong, those players are really good. Jackie is a perfect example. They see them at Worlds and like, oh my god, this guy is so incredible. He's amazing. I'm like, I've watched probably 500 games of Uzi. That guy has done some banana shit.
Yeah.
Just like absolute peeled and tossed to the side. Like he is not perfect by any means. Shows up when it counts, which does count for something, but these players are definitely fallible. Fallible?
I mean, I agree. And I think that when you're going ham and you're trading those huge cooldowns, it can be either really good or really bad depending on where your jungler is and what the plan is, right? Because if you're like, and this is why a player like the Shy is as good as people consider him to be, and full credit to him. But when he does this, he's making sure that on the wraparound, his jungler is going to be there. And you're not going to have your flash because this guy made you flash, right? He made you burn the cooldown. And whether he made you traded it or whatever depends on how good you play, right? Because that's what it is. You get tested. Are you actually going to survive? You have to just fight to the death. And the way I want to describe this is a team like G2 is a resemblance in this, is when you want to fight this guy, or a team like G2, when you throw out your fist, you need to be ready to get your knuckles bruised because they're going to fight back. It's not like, oh, we have 4 people on the bottom side of the map. These guys are going to go on the turret 4 versus 3, and you're going to have to get your knuckles bruised. You're fighting.
Do you think G2 is the LEC equivalent of IG?
In that sense, yes. In the idea of like raw skill and where you feel like you can't actually push any advantages yourself, because I feel like this was the trouble Fnatic had against IG in the finals specifically, is I don't feel like anyone was confident to just push their advantage, just be the one forcing that. I don't want to I don't want this guy to go on me and force the flash on me. I want to go on him and force his flash, right? I want to fight him because I have the edge in the matchup. And that comes to draft in a bit. Like the idea in the draft is there because you need champions that are able to do that. But in that sense, yeah, I think so. I think you need to be willing to get your knuckles bruised when you brawl with G2.
Now, one thing that you kind of brought up was that, like, for the most part, outside of jungle, right? Like, people just they play the role, they go where they're supposed to go. But last year, it felt like Caps, you were the guy that bucked that trend, and you've been a guy that's consistently bucked that trend, where like you're expected to, let's say, win a lane slightly or go even, and then you solo kill the guy. And then you kill him again, and suddenly you're like 1K up individually by 10 minutes. So if it came down to this, if you're in a position, let's say in playoffs, where you can't find these big individual advantages, how do you think G2 performs? Like, do you still feel really confident in you guys' like whole strength as a team? Because while I won't say that you guys relied on it in every game, there are some clear examples where it's like Caps versus the world, and you either make the outplay and G2 wins the game, or like you don't, and it doesn't come through.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't think. Like, thinking back, I don't think I got like huge leads in lane ever. I mean, I did, right? But I don't think I necessarily got like solo leads in lane. Maybe I did like every now and then, like a few games, but it was not really something that happened a lot. It's not really something that should happen a lot, I think. As mentioned, it's like sure I can get ahead if I get a jungle gank, or if I get someone to help me, or if enemy laner really does something really stupid, But you're generally not gonna get like huge leads on your own, and I don't think we have necessarily relied on it. At the same time, I do think that if the game just, like, I feel like the way I feel is that we play really aggressive and we're really good at getting leads. But even if the game doesn't go our way, our mid game is really good. And I think I don't want to say we showed it, because these last few weeks we were not practicing as hard. We wanted to be a bit more relaxed, and it showed in the early game, We felt really far behind against Vitality, felt really far behind against Misfits, we felt really far behind against Fnatic, right? And all 3 of the games, mid-game, we ended up like slowing out the game. Sure, some games it was more than others, like the Fnatic game really went really late. The Vitality game we turned around, and the Misfits game, I think it went like 30-something minutes, even though they had a huge lead, right? And this is something that I think people don't realize about us, is that our strength is not necessarily just like all-inning on early game and just like trying to get a lead and then winning. We're fine playing from behind. We're fine playing from ahead. And I mean, I just think that if we actually get a lead, it's basically over. And if we don't, then we can always like crawl our way back.
So I'm curious how you feel about the team right now going into your matchup versus Origen as we shift attention to playoffs. Because once again, we talk about recency bias. The public, I feel like, is definitely on the side of what the hell is going down with G2. Every pro team that we have brought on here, did Bwipo predict G2 to beat Origen too?
Everyone predicted G2.
Everyone, except for me and Frostgren, has now predicted G2 to beat Origen. So there's still a ton of confidence there. Now, Bwipo did ask for a specific asterisk that it would be 3-1 or 3-2, depending on if promisq or Mikyx was playing, which I think is fair. But how do you feel about the level of G2? Do you feel like you guys are like clear number one still, despite these last few, let's say, more relaxed weeks?
Yeah, I mean, so we just like started scrimming again, right? Like for a few days ago. And yeah, I mean, I think we're good. I think we still have a way to playoffs, right? Because there's still like 1.5 week. But I think we'll definitely show up in playoffs. Where I'm like rank 1 in SoloQ, so my skill and my peak is coming, Odd flex, I know, but I definitely think that we're gonna be able to show up against OG.
I like the flex. Bwipo, what rank are you in SoloQ?
I don't even know.
Oh,
It's not that impressive. Like 160 something. I don't know.
it's number one. That's pretty big difference there.
Did you guys ever hide your SoloQ? Because Nukeduck was talking about how he's got specific accounts that he tries to keep hidden so he can practice weird picks. I know that all three of you, Nukeduck included, have like pretty massive champion pools. Do you guys really go out of your way to try to find those specific counter matchups that you keep hidden away so you can pull out?
Depends on what champion specifically. If you feel like it's a champion that the enemy team wouldn't think of, then yeah, I think it's valuable to do that. But if you think it's a champion that like people are like looking at and they're like, is he actually? Like, is he actually going to play this? I think we did this last year in summer playoffs against Schalke. Caps played like 10 games before God. Like just 10 games before. We weren't actually sure if the champion was the real thing, right? It turned out to be the real thing. But we weren't sure, like, are they going to play it? Or whatever, let's just play like 20 games of SoloQ on it and just make them be afraid that we might. And I have a few picks like that if you go on my OPGG profile, right? It's not hidden. Like, for example, Rengar. Am I actually going to play Rengar top? You have to ask yourself, is this guy actually going to do that? And
Ivern jungle, Rengar top. Think about it.
Is this why Brox has been getting the chain Ivern bans for an entire season?
It's really to ban out Rengar.
This is the type of pick where it's like, if you want to throw a ban at it, you're welcome, But what situation am I actually going to pick it in? That's what they have to ask yourself. And that's the type of pick where you're like, you know what? If they ban it, it's a freebie, right? You get it for free. But there's certain champions where are really OP.
Yeah.
Like our god last year, where people aren't actually sure if they're really OP. So you just play them and just make them ban it, or you hide it. If you're convinced the champion is OP, you hide it. Ooh. Because then you come out game 1, you first pick this champion, and the enemy team's like, what the hell? Now the meta has become pick or ban this champion.
Do you think it's more valuable? Because I was just going to ask. Because in a best of 5, I would be like, why would you would just play it game 1 just to force them to ban it to change ban strategy? Or do you think that you hide something like that to, if needed, game 5? Or let's say game 3, where it's like, we have to win this. It's time to actually pull out the OP champion and give away your trump card.
I think that just depends on the nature of the champion. I think of how volatile it is. I think Victor was a very good example at Worlds. The champion suddenly shows up, and I just played like 20 or X amount of games on it on my SoloQ account, It's like, is he actually OP? And then you see Keen absolutely demolish Licorice with it, and you're just like, holy. You're like, this champ is not balanced, Like, there is no way you can tell me this champion is balanced. Which is why, it kind of killed all the hype off in that matchup for me, because, when I see Afrika Freaks getting 3-0'd, when I see Keen solo killing the guy like 5 times over 2 games, I'm just like, all right, I think if I just pick Victor, everything will be okay. Because this champion was just disgusting. So, like, it goes both ways.
Caps, in your experience, like, especially like, because Nukeduck talks specifically about your matchup, your mid lane matchup, where he thinks that there's like these elements of mind games. And I think when we look at mid lane, you and Nukeduck are probably 1 and 2 right now. Like, do you feel that? Do you feel those mind games heading in? Like, are you thinking of like a million different special counter picks just to fight this guy?
I mean, I don't think I'm really having like that many mind games. I've always like had like a lot of weird champions to pick sometimes, you know, and like to comment on what you said about like when you play it, usually you just pick it if it's like a good situation, you know. For example, like last year we picked the Vayne in game 3. It's not like we picked the game 1 because like maybe it wasn't a good situation. Not like we picked game 2 wasn't a good situation either. But when the perfect situation comes, and then you also have to think, do I actually want to show it, right? And there we just picked it, you know, because I mean, I guess we just showed it. Because sometimes you want to hide things, right? And especially, actually, I don't want to say anything. But sometimes you want to hide things, and sometimes you want to show it. And if you actually want to show it, then you just pick it when it's actually good, right? You don't want to just pick it just to pick it, you know. But I don't think I'm not really like making that many mind games. Maybe like from an outside perspective, it's like because I play a lot of weird champions in SoloQ. But I play a lot of weird champs just to play them because I want to try them out, see if they actually work. But I could imagine that from an outside perspective, it looks like really hard to look at because I'm playing so many weird champions. Like right now, my SoloQ is like, if you go on my OGG, it's like a real mess.
I think he's playing top laners mid lane. Like last I checked, you were playing like every top laner that was OP.
And just top lane, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't want you.
I'm actually re-rolling.
I don't want you to give any special picks away. But for the SoloQ mid laners out there, is there anything that's like maybe from last season's pile of cheese picks that you can recommend people trying for fun? You can also wait until like you guys have played it on stage and then share it. Like I don't know.
I mean the thing is like if I'm sure I can say, I mean I played like the Vayne mid, right, and stuff like this, and you see it's pop up in spring, early spring, and a lot of people playing it. Even teams from other than EU are starting to play it, like in China and Korea. And things like this is why I would never say if I think something's actually good, because sure, it might not be good right now, but in 5 months, in a year, in 2 years, it might actually be a thing.
Right now, you can say it. Right now, you could be trolling, but like 3 months from now, it could actually be OP.
Exactly. That's why I'm just playing everything, and then when something gets meta, I have an advantage, right? Especially, it might not matter as much as for like best of ones and like regular season, even playoffs. But when you go to like international tournaments and 2 days before or semifinals, you find out Victor is super OP, for example, top lane, right? Then it's like a huge advantage if you actually. Bwipo used to play a lot of Victor, right? So he's like really lucky in that sense.
Yeah.
but that basically like I want to have that for like as many champions as I can, so that like let's say Rammus mid is secret OP, you know, and it turns out that way, then I'm like I'm the best at taunting everyone, you know.
This is actually perfect because we have both Bwipo and you guys have again really stupid champion picks sometimes. But like Nukeduck talked about how his secret to maintaining such a large champion pool was the fact that it was about recognizing what was meta, having those fundamentally there, and then just finding niche counter picks. And then it wasn't about learning every matchup with like the Swain. It was about learning the Lissandra Swain matchup and just the intimacy there. As you guys are maintaining your champion oceans, do you have the mentality of I just need to learn like against the meta champions, or are you saying more I'm going to play everything, I'm going to learn every single matchup, how every champion works, and then that way I'm just indestructible?
Yeah, I mean, so I think a big thing that people might misunderstand about like big champ pools is not like you look at Nukeduck or you look at me or something like this and you think, oh, he can play every single champion. I mean, I might play. It's like saying I can play any champion, but I can't play every champion. You know. Mm-hmm. So like, if I want to play a champion, I can practice it and then I can play it. But it's not like I can play every champion at once. Like it's not like I'm going to playoffs and I can play every single champion from A to Z. And if I pick it, then I'm like at the top level. You practice certain things, and that's why people go and check SoloQ because they think like, oh, what is he practicing? Or scrims. I mean, you guys can check that, right? But that's also why you practice, right? You practice those things, and then you get really good at certain champions. Let's say Nuke was playing Swain, right? Then he probably played a lot in SoloQ, and then he went on stage and played it, right? It's not like he, like 1 year from now, he hasn't played any Swain last year, and then he just pulls out the Swain and is like insane on it. I mean, sometimes it is something like that for some champions, especially like champions that have been spammed to the ground. Like Oriana Syndra was meta for like so long that I'm pretty sure every mid laner can just play it now. Like you don't actually need to practice it, but most champions you actually need to practice before you play them, and that's when you can actually play it.
Bwipo, is it the same for you? Is it about mastering the champion's intricacies or how that champion fits in like the workflow systems of the top lane?
Depends when and where you pick it.
God damn it, Bwipo, that's a bullshit answer.
No, it's not. Like, okay, you're gonna tell me, oh, I'm gonna pick Swain into Lissandra. That sounds like the easiest matchup of my life. When I pick Swain blind and people pick Lissandra, I'm like, you want to lose the game? Okay, you can lose the game. You know, but when I pick Swain blind, this guy picks Kled. You know, there's a difference. I agree because, you know, mid laners have the privilege of the 5 pick. They get to choose, right? I don't get to choose. When I get told you're playing Victor, I'm picking it blind. If this guy wants to pick Kled or Jarvan or Jace or whatever, I'm playing it, right? So for me, it's not about, oh, you know, I can get this easy matchup that's ridiculously, like, that's super lopsided. No, I have to play every matchup.
But you guys had Urgot for like 10 years. You just like slapped Urgot. You're like, this baby goes for miles.
Yeah, okay, sure, that works. But when it comes to cheese picks like this, right? You pick Swain, you pick Victor, because this is what I blind picked, right? Like, this people don't get. I was just slamming these picks. They were my Urgots. You know, they're like Urgot 2, Urgot 3. They were Urgot 2, Urgot 3. You know, they were there just in case Urgot got banned. So I think that's a really big difference. I think there's a really big difference between slamming your blind pick, right, which is like a niche champion, and then just challenging this guy, do you play the counter, right? Because we were like, you know, if we blind pick Swain against Ray, he's probably going to pick Kled, because this is like one of the champions that is considered okay into it. For example, if you blind pick Victor, we didn't realize it at the time, but when we went back, we're like, Jarvan sounds pretty good into Victor. And I think we had like 3 champions that would just get caged and die by to the Jarvan. And then they didn't pick it, right? And you're like, you know, but that's some of the things you don't think about when you blind pick a champion, because you also open up their weird picks, but you don't think about it. So to come to your point, yes, playing one specific matchup and playing a counter pick specifically into the matchup that everyone is blind picking is a good thing. But it really depends on when you pick it in the draft, you know, because if your coach tells you, you know, you're picking 1-2 here, what do you pick? Sometimes the meta just doesn't allow you to pick a meta champion, right? You can't just be like, oh, I'm going to pick Gnar here like the last 6 years, or I'm going to pick Maokai here, or I'm going to pick Urgot nowadays, or like not any longer, right? That's what the nerf happened, and that's when it changed. Suddenly you have to find that other weird champion, and for me it was Aatrox, right? You saw it, I just picked it, and we'll see what happens. Renekton showed up for that same purpose. Kennen shows up for that same purpose, right? Everyone has their own different pick, and then the matchups evolve, right? They start to change. What do you see into this? Everything changes. And then, of course, you have the cheating is the flex pick, right? You pick a champion, you're like, I'll take it if it's good
or you
The
save
G2
last
method.
minute.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good way of drafting, but it evolves from the same idea.
Yeah.
So, yes, it is good, and it's much easier to practice for one specific matchup if you know the enemy team is probably going to draft it. For example, Wukong into Zoe. You know, we were ready, you know, like, we were playing Wukong for this matchup. Were we ready to play it in other matchups? I'm sure Caps was willing to play it in another matchup if the situation was good. But if you know the situation is going to be good because you know they're going to pick it, well, of course, it's going to be much easier to execute on this champion. Whereas if you're being told 1-2 or 2-3, you're blinding a champion, find me something.
Yeah, I imagine the difference between blind pick Wukong and counter pick Wukong.
Yeah.
It's pretty significant.
Living life on the edge.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I think we actually blind picked because I think they've Ryze. I think they picked Ryze, and we thought it was Ryze mid, and then we picked Wukong, and then they actually was Ryze top,
Wait, what?
and they last picked Zoe.
Wait, what? Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they were Zoe
My-
last picked.
Favorite hobby is actually, well, I love listening to team comms and listening to team comms when there's like shit tons of flex picks and just I'll like quickly swap to the other team. The other team just like, I think it's going mid.
Really think this guy's gonna play at top. Like, it could go jungle. Really think it's gonna be. I don't know.
But that's why, like, more credit to my Gangplank pick, right? Because we know Ryze is going top when I pick Gangplank. See how that works?
Yeah.
I'm taking one for the team.
Hey,
we
guys,
know it's going
If I
there.
pick a losing matchup, he'll put the Ryze top.
Yeah,
Problem
I mean,
solved.
come on.
The best part is when people are like, Ryze is mid, and then Ryze gets flexed to top, and then you listen to the comms, no one says a word.
Yeah,
The coach is like,
I think our draft philosophy is like, if we don't know where things are going, then no one else does. You know?
Hey.
Honestly, the amount of drafts we've just been like completely confused. I mean, okay, not on stage, like at least not that much, you know.
true
but
animal
I
style.
mean,
I mean, honestly, like, when you locked in Cassio on 4, I was like, oh, you know, I saw Ryze Jarvan, I'm like, all right, you know, it's one of those games, you know, and then I see Cassio, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's going bot into Lucian, because some people like that, but you never know.
You're like, it might be Ryze spot. Like,
yeah,
I love flex picks, dude. It makes every draft a little bit more interesting. Also, it just makes every color caster look slightly worse at their job because they're like, they go through the same thing the enemy team goes. They're like, yeah, he's played this in SoloQ. I really think it's going, and I was wrong. And never mind, it's a jungle pick. It can jungle apparently.
It will never get approved, but the broadcast would be so funny if we could just pop into team comms, like when some of that bullshit gets, like, because the players say you guys say the funniest shit. It's so good. I always love when the coach is just like, good luck, guys.
yeah.
And set off.
I think last year Dylan did that a few times.
Yeah. I mean, I remember as well back in the day with like the MF pick against SKT when it was like support, and I just remember they actually showed the comps from like Faker when they picked MF against him, and he was like, no, it must be a fail pick. They mispicked. There's no way they picked misfortune support, you know. And I can just remember reading that or like watching it, and I was just like laughing so much.
The greatest thing is that on opposite sides of the bracket, after the MF support pick was picked, there was actually a world, I'm telling this to the audience, where Lux support was going to be a massive thing, because Lux wasn't revealed to be like the answer to MF support until much later on, I think after the World Championship. But because the team who picked it, I can't remember who it was, they were on one side of the bracket, and then the team screaming the Lux support as the counter to MF support was on the other side of the bracket. All the casters were like checking with scrims like, the Lux support is going to come out, and then you kept seeing like every time Lux would get hovered, be like, but then it never got played.
Draw my knowledge, let me draw my knowledge. I've done research, let me talk. Never mind.
Deficio's up to like 3 AM, like taking down all these
He's
Lux
like watched
notes.
every Korean solo queues. Like, let me watch.
Just
scrims,
throws out 6 pages because it never gets played. And everyone's like, oh, well, at least SoloQ was saved.
Oh god.
I mean, I guess then you have it ready. Then, like we talked about with the picks I'm hiding, in like 1 year when MF gets picked and someone picks Lux into it, then you have the notes ready.
You're like,
That's how it is. That's what I'm ready. I'm also just my favorite thing is like weird counter picks that people come up with and seeing if they actually work or pan out. Focusing back in on playoffs, I have a hypothetical question for you, Caps. Let's say you're third place. You know who the 5th place team is. You don't know who the 6th place team is, and you have to pick an opponent. Do you instantly lock Vitality as your opponent, or do you wait to see if it's Schalke or SK? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm not sure actually. I mean, I think every team has a different matchup into different teams. Maybe I think I've always like respected Vitality a lot. I feel like even when we played against Vitality, like in 2018 spring, we were like more scared of them than like G2 and Splice, because while we might not necessarily think they're a better team than the other teams, they have like this randomness, or like they have like this really aggressiveness where they just like, I don't know, go top and then they hope they get a lot of kills, you know, and maybe they do, and then they actually snowball. Or maybe like they gank mid, you know, we saw Gilly sack a few times as well.
whatever Bwipo's answer is after this, I just want this footage cut with the Vitality Fnatic game, where at least one game Bwipo's gonna just take it, and there's gonna be like 6 people.
It happened in spring. I remember. I was actually it was a Cho'Gath game. It was the Cho'Gath game. I remember. I think it was the only Cho'Gath game I played in spring, and I tanked a 3-man gank at like level 5 and burned the guy's flash. And then I remember the Talia walled behind my turret, and the Olaf just ran at me, and he solo killed me basically. So like I was just like in a cage with an Olaf and a Talia, and Cabochard was just hitting my tier 1, you know. He didn't care, you know. Like he was like, whatever, he's dead anyway. I was just getting mauled, you know. And I'm just like,
thought there was plates, you know.
It's literally the Thunderdome. You're literally just like, well, there's a wall behind me. I'm just a flashless Cho'Gath. This is my life now.
He's like the Leonardo DiCaprio cosplay is like the bear is just.
Oh god, it's a powerful visual.
But I mean, that's basically like, so I think Vitality is like scary to play against always, because there's always that random factor. Even though a lot of people say like, you know how they're gonna do it, still like they're really aggressive, right? So that makes it kind of coin flip sometimes, and it's kind of scary, you know, in that way. So I would probably prefer playing against Schalke or Schalke or SK.
Yeah.
Just because I think we would just win probably, and they probably wouldn't like put up much of a fight.
All right, now we've asked literally everyone but Fnatic about this. I wanted to make sure we got Fnatic last before it's now your turn. Why Vitality?
Why not? Give me one good reason why a team
they're
that
crazy.
has only performed in best of 1s, you shouldn't take in a best of 5. I'm gonna tell you this right now, and you're gonna give me an argument as to why I'm wrong. Last year, spring, the first best of 5 Vitality played, they almost lost to H2K. They went to game 5, and they might as well have...
That team went to semi-finals at Worlds, or was it quarterfinals?
Wait, what? H2K?
Well, I mean, it was HK, but it was like a different HK.
Oh, it was a really different HK.
Really different. That's like,
please.
No, I got this Reddit comment. Bwipo, what is he talking about?
No, like, you know what I mean? Like, they are inconsistent on a whole new level.
I mean, to be fair, they only won that series because the jungler at the time for H2K hard ran it down. He just, I can't remember who it was.
So, like, that happened, right? Then you go on, you know, we play our best of 5, and the only game we lost, which was actually kind of a 1 game, was when I went 0-6, because they actually just kept coming top, and we weren't able to trade anything on the other side of the map, right? You know, if you like, I even told Joey, you know, if there's any team we're gonna play against, you know, if you give Cabochard 5 shots at winning the game through top against me, I'm confident that it's not gonna happen. Like, even the game where I played Yorick, right? He said I gave up too much, right? But even with giving up so much, he still, like, did he win the game on his own? No, he didn't.
But yeah,
If your stance is, if you give Cabochard 5 shots at me, I'm gonna sucker punch him either way. But you could have had Whirlip.
Yeah, but the thing is like, what do I want? Well, do I want someone that thinks he's gonna carry the game against me by like picking some random like picking whatever he's gonna pick? I don't know. And that's the Cabochard special, right? You know, he's gonna pick Lucian top, maybe. Or do I want some guy that's gonna blind pick Poppy and, you know, like, pray to the gods, you know? I don't want to have a 0-0 match up top because I play aggressive too. I want to get an advantage too. And
He's like, if someone's gonna explode, it's gonna be one of us, but there'll be fireworks.
No, but the point is just...
They're fast die young.
The thing is that it's the only way they can play the game too, right? Jiizuke has to be enabled, first of all, because they're not going to win through top with just their jungler. They just don't. Because that's what happened last time we played them, right? They brought their bot lane eventually, but it was too late. The advantages were already created. We were in a pretty good spot. Now, of course, I died, which was a very telegraphed swap. But okay, you can play me for that one. But that's what I'm saying. You know, if I'm only dying to really telegraphed plays, what if I don't die to the telegraphed play? Aren't we just winning?
yeah, but also like a lot of.
Let me break this
Hold
down.
on.
You're like, I saw it coming and I died anyway, but next time I won't.
Next time when I see it coming, if
Yeah,
I
but
don't die.
it's just, I don't know. It's just the thing about Vitality is like I feel like they need extra. Like it's not like they can just play through one lane.
on,
They
but-
play through top and win just off of
Yeah,
that advantage.
But so the thing is that
Before we go into this, I have to pee so bad.
You can go. You
so
can go. You just go.
defense here.
yeah, you just go.
Keep
Go,
him
go,
honest.
Go. All right. Wonderful. I did that once on the dive, so I can't actually flame her for that. So here's the thing: is that one of the things that we brought up was like, but this is a different Vitality roster.
How?
So that would be my question. Do you feel like this is exactly the same as that spring?
I mean, I think the
split
junglers are a lot better at playing through top. But, and here comes the but, it's also still the only thing they're willing to do. I'm sure they can play through mid. I'm sure they can play through bot. I'm sure they can do whatever the hell they want. But the last few weeks, they've looked abysmal. You can't tell me otherwise because they beat our record and not in a good way. They took the loss.
Yeah, no, and
Faster than
look,
we
like
did.
I'm on the same page with you. That Vitality has.
So
been
in
on
that
the
sense,
downswing.
right, like I can explain why, but at the end of the day, I just told Joey if there's any team that I feel like isn't going to win a best of 5 against us, because again, I gave them a 3-1, right, because there is a chance. I scratched out the 0 because I'm like, you know what, they could take a game off of us, right? They can, but Vitality's known for throwing games, you know, and you know, when they start Baron and 50-50 it when they're 5k gold up, I'm just like, you know, I know the game is going to go late. Vitality cannot cleanly close out a game. They literally can't. They haven't for a year and a half. Why would they suddenly in this playoffs be able to do it? I know they did it like once or twice or 3 or 4 times, but over the course of all the games they've played, they can't close out a game properly. They don't do it. Maybe properly is the wrong word, but cleanly. You can always punch back.
Looking at your guys' game against us, but
No, but you get the idea, right?
yeah.
I mean, I'm sure
but you-
Caps agrees with this, no?
Yeah, I mean, you said yourself so that they're like inconsistent, and at least for me, playing against a team, I would rather be like kind of counting on myself to like perform than like my opponents like their level.
Yeah, okay, but that's my point. I'm counting on my team to perform because I know the game's going to 35 minutes, and I'm super convinced that our players are capable of carrying games at any like. I'm going to bring up my Reckless trump card here. Boom. I have Reckless on my team. If the game goes 6 items, I'm betting on this guy to win me a 5v5 and winning me the game. So I know Vitality's not going to close out the game. I know they're not.
There's a lot of confidence, Bwipo. This is a ton.
Yeah, I'm pulling it out. Boom. He's going to win me the game. Hylissang, he's going to find me and engage. He's going to start a fight for me. I'm going to win that game if it goes late.
But you can see from an outside perspective why people would look at this and go, this feels like a gamble. Because while you're talking about this inconsistency, and yes, there is those 1, 2, 3, 4 games, I mean, however many games you want to talk about where they do close out cleanly, Vitality are still a super explosive team. And one of the bets you're making is that if they do get this 5k gold lead, that they are still going to go for the risky Baron. But what happens in your world if Vitality are suddenly much more patient, much more controlled?
Then, but that's what I'm saying. Do you really think they're going to win a game off that? Because they haven't shown to be able to do it. Like, they always go for the explosive play because they don't play slow. They
Well-
don't know how to slow down.
But what happens if they get a Mountain Drake and then they just one shot
Mountain
Baron?
Drake, ah.
Then they just one shot
Stakes
Baron.
double lift.
But that's the thing. They can't get a Mountain Drake because they don't play around bot lane. Like, they just
Well,
don't. Their bot lane is 2v,
fair. That's
2vx every single game. Like, they're actually being ignored. They pick a hard-winning bot lane to not int.
But they can still get a Mountain Drake, like not in the first like 15 minutes. You know?
Yeah, of
like,
course.
They get ahead in the game.
I mean, obviously, but I'm just saying that if you're ahead on the bottom side of the map, which I think is realistic against Vitality, which is how they've been playing the entire split, right? They're basically just said, you know, Attila, you can have Lucian or Draven, and I'll see you at 25 minutes. You know, just pick a champion that has pressure so you don't int. This is what it looks like, right? Fine. You know, you won't have pressure, and you're going to have to play a champion like that that's not going to scale. And then we know you can't close out a game because they've shown not to be able to.
All right. I mean,
and then the question just becomes,
well,
do you really want to play like an even game, or do you want to play a skewed game where you feel like you're advantaged? Because I feel like I'm advantaged. I told Joe, you know, I put my 2 cents in. I'm like, look, last time we played, the Cabochard had a pretty big advantage, but he wasn't carrying the game. Like, he was the leading force, but he didn't carry the game. He didn't actually put the win on the board. So I'm okay with that. Like, I'm okay with taking that on and just being like, you know what?
that's
I don't think this guy's going to carry. In spring, my first best of 5 I've ever played, it was the same thing, and he couldn't do it back then. If he's that much better now,
I don't know. I just want to see.
I didn't feel it.
matchup. I just really actually hope you guys both play like real top laners and just like actually go toe to toe and then like.
I always play real top laners. The thing is, last year I did it. Like, you know, I was on tank duty playing Gangplank. That was our running meme, wasn't it? Like, Gangplank's a tank because you don't need resources.
My favorite thing about Bwipo, he's like, back in my day, we had to go uphill both ways in draft lane. I was blind picking everything. I got last pick. I still had to
I play
blind pick.
bot, play wherever I need to go. I have suffered. I will not be taken out.
That's what I said about certain champions just have that. Like, that's what I meant, and that's my philosophy, right? Is if I'm good at the game, I'm not going to give you an advantage even if I have a bad matchup. You can have your 20 CS, or in our last case, your 30 or 40.
50.
But am I going to cost my team the game? Not immediately.
Well, I like that this is what was really thought out and really well planned, at least. Not immediately going to cost your team the game. And I'm curious to see how that matchup unfolds. As we're coming up on the end here, and before we get into Twitter questions, I do want to ask, get a little bit of insight on Caps on how you're feeling. There's obviously a ton of confidence from these boys in their vitality. They got to pick their opponent. Now, you didn't. And OG seems to be an opponent that the public are really big on right now. All the pros, once again, still heavily in the G2 camp. Overall, like, what do you think is going to be the deciding factor in this matchup versus Origen?
I mean, obviously, we hope. Like, I hope that Mikyx's wrist will actually like heal. You know, it's getting better, but it's still like not that great. But I think even if we play with promisq, even if Mikyx doesn't play and we play with him, like if he doesn't like practice and we just play with him anyway, I think. I mean, I don't know if that's like anything necessarily that's about to decide the game. I think sure if Nuke Dog gets like a really good matchup, if he pops out on set, then maybe he can carry. But I think if he doesn't carry, then I don't see how OG will win, because they play like a really slow style. And the one time we lost them was because Nuke actually just popped off. But I think like them playing like really slow game will not work against us. We're gonna fight them, and yeah, I think we'll distract them to the dirt and we'll win there, you know?
That's what I want to see. Dude, I love Clash of
I
Styles.
agree with this. That's why I gave OG a 3-1, because I can't see them winning a clean game. Honestly, it's completely possible, but I feel like the thing about like playing a slow, clean game like this is there's a lot of openings where OG needs to be incredibly disciplined. And I feel like that's where, honestly, most teams struggle, right? When you're playing a really clean game, the discipline needs to be there. And obviously, it's easy to play a clean game against a team that's not going to actually just, you know, drag you to the dirt, like we just said. But when a team is, it need to be really disciplined or be willing to.
I mean,
go
G2's in that team. G2's literally covered in mud looking.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, you know,
buddy. Like, let's go.
And that's why I can see. That's why I'm giving G2 the edge. But when it comes to just playing a clean game of League of Legends, you know, and you're just looking at playing League of Legends, I think OG is a really good team at that. Right? They're just playing the game. They don't do anything special, but they don't do anything wrong.
Can you hand me your brackets really quick? I want to get one question in on this. Of course, once again, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be publishing the brackets later. That's what I wanted to see. All right, so this is.
They both have each other there.
They both have each other in the finals. That's what I like to see, folks. G2 Fnatic in the finals. I mean, admittedly, we predicted Origen to be there, so in order for this to happen, we both have to be wrong, but that's fine. 3-0, though.
Wait, did G2 put a 3-0?
Do you put a 3-0, Caps?
So Okay.
That one you're going to have to explain because Bwipo said 3-2 at least.
Yeah.
Give us
3-1 if it's with promisq.
3-1 if it's with promisq.
Well, maybe
That's the
3-0.
asterisk.
Yeah, well, okay. But I just want to defend my things first because, like, I think Fnatic has been looking really strong. Is what everyone is saying, right? And I agree. Obviously,
Apparently
you
not
guys are on,
strong
like
enough.
8 wins in a row, something.
Yeah, we're 8-0.
8-0 in a row, right? But I also think a lot of their leads come from, as I said, like the early first 3 minutes. Yeah. And I think if the game is even at 3 minutes, then I think that they're gonna have a really hard time. Like the rest of the early game. Like, that's just how
my counter argument to that is so I was watching G2 Misfits, and when I left that game at like 7 minutes, I was like, this one's over. There's no way Misfits win. And then I come back half an hour later, and Misfits win.
Yeah, I mean that's why.
What happened there, So, like, I don't disagree with you in the sense that, yeah, we do get our advantages, but if you really think you can't throw a lead...
No, but that's why I throw out my we didn't like practice as hard card. I mean that's actually how it is, Like,
we weren't trying. Boom.
You weren't trying to win the game.
Sandbagging.
But that's actually what I throw out.
That's a rough one.
But basically what I'm actually like trying to get is that I think Fnatic has been relying like a lot on their 8 wins to like on like early game cheeses, and I think those are worse in best of fives. Even though I still feel like we see a lot in China, a lot especially. So maybe they can make it work, right? But I believe that Fnatic will find other ways to win the game. And as mentioned, like we always had a strong mid game, late game on Fnatic, right? And I wrote 3-0 for Fnatic against Vitality, but I think that series is like 3-0 either way. And I think if Fnatic doesn't change, basically up their game since like the last few weeks, I think they will actually lose. But that's...
I can respect a man who will say that on the table with a Fnatic.
I respect it, so if we play like shit, we're gonna lose. Well, yeah, I agree with that.
I mean, it's just like, I think... So, basically what I said is like, I think Fnatic has been looking strong, right? But it's like unreliable strong, I feel like. And I think you guys can up it.
Yeah.
But if you don't, then I think, like, because as I said, you're going all the way, right? You're like 3-0, it's 3-1 and 3-2. I guess it's going like...
Yeah,
Fnatic are making the run.
Yeah, but exactly, they're making the run. Or I think they're just gonna get 3-0. And maybe they take a game, right? And maybe they're gonna go 3-1. And now everyone's gonna say, "Oh, but you said 3-0 and they got 3-1."
But I think an element of this is that so many people just look at it as like Vitality versus Fnatic, Splice versus Fnatic, Origen versus Fnatic, as opposed to Fnatic have to play. How many best of fives is that?
So many best of fives.
That's like
4 best of fives.
20 max games. And I think when you look at it in that scope, that's more games than your entire split possibly to make this run. Do you guys have 20 games worth of
gas?
Gas.
I've got a lot of gas to give, that's for sure. No, I think at that point, I agree, right? It's a tough run, but at the end of the day, it's a marathon. It is a marathon for us, right? We need to get there to the end, and along the way, a lot of small things can change and be different. And I feel like that's where we have our advantage in the sense that, like, I think I'm flexible enough as a player to randomly pull out a champion that's going to pull us a win and shape the meta a bit. I feel like Reckless, Hylissang, Broxa, like, we're all just... Even Nemesis, right? He's like the least tested in that sense, but I'm confident that when we get to the best of 5 stage, adaptability is going to be one of our strengths. Like, we're going to be willing to just change our draft snap. Like, okay, this didn't work out. Boom. When you said that, I laughed a bit.
I was like, yeah, you said I wasn't going to say anything, but you're like...
Zoe Cassidon.
He's got Zoe. He's got the Cassidon.
What? No, Cassidon's one of his best picks.
It just didn't work out for us because we're not very good at playing around the champion like that. I'll be honest, or we weren't at least.
At the time.
But this is what I'm saying is that we're willing to just change, and if we feel like, we need more scaling here. There's none of us that are gonna be like, I can't play this matchup. It's too hard. We're just gonna be like, let's go.
That's what I want to hear. So we have one thing left to do, and it is Twitter questions. This first one I want to give to you, Caps. Now, Perks was supposed to be here to defend himself. But he's not, which is part of the reason why I'm going to ask this question.
I spent all of this time looking up
I'm going to do 2
Twitter questions. And
quick
back
to back. No, fine. We're gonna get 2, and they're both basically the same question. First from Casper at XChuddy. You versus Perks, Yasuo 1v1. Who's the better Yasuo?
Well, I think it's pretty obvious. I think I would definitely take the Yasuo 1v1. I know he thinks a different way. I can say that much.
Good G2 content piece right there.
Yeah, that's true.
That one's free.
Where does Yasuo go?
Mid lane.
Mid lane.
You guys will get that later. Second question from Gary the Carry. Who plays the best Ryze on G2? And why is it Wonder? Is what he says. But is it you? Is it Wonder? Is it Perks? Who's the
We were
best
actually
Ryze?
like looking at we looked at them yesterday. I'm sorry, but we looked at them on Twitter, the questions, and we were like laughing about them, And I think everyone is like really confident in their own Ryze. So again, I'm gonna say it's my Ryze because I'm the one here. But if you ask any of them, then they'll say their Ryze. So I guess a Ryze 1v1 is like not as hype as a Yasuo 1v1. That sounds kind of like
Ryze 1v1 sounds really troll.
we can go on Baron Pit and pro Qs on Sunday.
Actually, that's a good one. It's like Mundo, but with Ryze.
You have all these questions prepped.
No, you took my Twitter questions. What I was going to say, no, I have a statement though. So many people, because we were talking about like MVP votes later on, and Perk's names always comes up. I don't think Perks will get MVP. I think it is worth putting him up there because making that role swap is hard. But just to offer some Bwipo support, no one was like, Bwipo for MVP for the role swap there. So like Perks is reinventing the goddamn wheel here.
I mean, that's just life, I mean, I feel like, honestly, the reason why there's no chance, there was no real chance for me to get MVP that split was because I feel like Caps was obviously getting all the attention. I mean, at some point, I think we all identified with having 3 solo laners and 2 junglers in that split. so it was kind of hard for me to look good, Like, I'm laning 2 versus 1 on the meta of the week, It was like, I think every week we had a new pick bot lane for me ready. Victor came out, Galio came out, some with less success than the others, but
Yeah.
I think I played like 7 unique champions in like 8 games or something. I would just play a new champion every week. So in that sense, full credit to Caps for that split.
Caps, who's the better bot laner? Perks or Bwipo?
He's got to say Perks. He's on that team. We'll let you think about it. You don't have to say anything.
I mean, let me ask him this question. How many times do you get your support now that you're playing with Perks?
Well, Mickey played Pike. He did play Pike,
But how many times did he come mid compared to when I was playing?
Yeah, Huli did go mid a few times. That's fair, but I think obviously Bwipo was a bot laner, right? And I think a lot of the reason that people didn't put him in the MP vote and stuff like this was also because you were like, you were bot lane, but you were like not really bot lane.
Yeah.
Like Luca is actually like Perks is actually like an AD carry now,
Yeah.
And Bwipo, everyone I guess probably thought that it was like a matter of time, right? Like I don't think anyone expected Bwipo to play AD carry next year, And
we were ready.
G2 bans
Zaya in your
the Zaya was
like,
ready.
We're ready to go.
Zyra Khan was sick. We were smurfing.
All right, one final question before we close out from Scandi perspective at Scandianvia. It almost looks like Scandinavia, but it's not. Scandinavia. For Bwipo, just in case you do manage to get a word in. Do is capitalized here, love it. You had a couple very good games, but Wonder Vizichachi still seem to have your number. This is 2 questions, I guess. But I just want to get to the last one, which is, do you consider yourself like a carry top laner? Is that like, if you had to define your style, are you a carry top laner? Or in this case, this is their example, are you more a master of tanks like Soaz? Like, how would you define?
Tanks. Well, that's like 2 polarizing.
I feel like if Soaz heard himself be described as a master
of tanks,
he would be mad.
The Maokai King.
Oh, I just want to, you mumbled it a bit, but I heard Vizichachi in there.
Oh, yeah,
I don't know when
there's 2 parts.
Vizichachi had my number this split, because I remember the Jace Kennen game, he did not have my number, and then the next game we played, I do believe he died 1 versus 1, which is a solo kill.
No, I was kind of glossing over that, but the other half of the question is, from this guy's perspective, Wonder and Vizichachi do seem to have your number.
How? Like, Wonder, fair play, the guy shit on me, right? Like, he can have it, like, whatever. Play Jason Oren and play GP in her eyes, sure, I agree. He beat me.
His puppy is better.
All right, Vizichachi's puppy is better.
Yeah,
that's why. But you know what I mean?
All right.
Anyway, to answer the question, am I a carry top laner? I don't think you're a carry top in the sense you pick a carry champion, you carry top, like if you're playing Oren and you're pushing like a madman and you're just like fighting everyone, you're carrying from top lane too, Like,
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I guess.
So are you a carry top laner?
I'll fight like a madman and try and push advantages, that's for sure. So I guess in that sense, I'm not a master of tanks that just sits behind his turret and waits for his team to come or something. I don't know.
All right. Well, that's it. That's all we got. We're literally almost out of room on our memory cards. We've gone for so long. So I appreciate you both taking the time to come. Good luck to both of you in your dream playoff run and your matchup in the finals, which you've both agreed on seeing. So
We'll see you there.
We can handshake on that one.
yeah, handshake.
I'll see you there.
See you in the finals. All right. That's hype.
I put 3-0, you put 3-2, so maybe we like settle like 3-1 for us.
We'll see.
Depending on who's on stage.
Well, it depends how many cheeses we can pull up, apparently.
And we, of course, there's a bet video coming out later this week. The Yamato bet is finished. We're going to show that video later this week. We're also going to have playoff graphics for everyone's predicted playoffs runs. And yeah, that's going to do it for us here on the second half of the playoff special. Thanks once again to you guys for joining. Thanks to the Vitality boys who were on earlier. Otherwise, thank you for watching. This has been EUphoria Season 3, Episode 11.
11.
Later.